Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in whenever and however you're watching or listening. It's the season debut of this week in Pirate Baseball. East Carolina drops the series to Xavier, losing 4-3 on Friday in the series opener, and then falling 9-3 in game one of the doubleheader before bouncing back with a 12-5 victory. And it was defensive miscues in those first two games and the lack of timely hitting that really killed the Pirates, but they corrected both of those things in game three, and we'll dive into it much deeper over the next 45 minutes to an hour. But right now, I'd like to welcome in former East Carolina pitcher John White. Wool, how are you?
I'm doing well, Bubba. Glad to be on and talking some Pirate baseball. Didn't go quite as well as we wanted to, but the Sunday game showed us that we can expect some better things to come, better hitting, and obviously a better run production day, but clean defensive wise as well. No errors at all. And so that's what we expect from the Pirates every game. But first couple games, getting the jitters out, they had to make some defensive changes. So we'll talk all about that. But it's a great day to be talking East Carolina baseball.
No doubt, as always. And now let's welcome in a guy that I was able to attend all three games in the series. Personally, I was at the doubleheader, but not able to, unfortunately, make it on opening day on Friday. But that is Johnny Robertson. Stats, how are you?
Hey, doing well, fellas. I'm still thawing out from Friday, to be honest with you. That was cold. That was a cold opener. I'll put that up there with, well, actually, that's probably one of the colder openers that I can remember. But it wouldn't have mattered if we could have pulled that out. And we very well, we could have pulled out game one. So, we went 1-2. Nobody's happy about that. But, I'm just an optimist maybe, but I saw a lot of good things. Hitting-wise, we really didn't, obviously we couldn't hit with runners in scoring position at all. But, if you break down, the top of the lineup did pretty well. And pitching-wise, even the guys that numbers don't look great, you could see good things that they were doing. And some of the pitchers just did outstanding. The worst part of the whole weekend for me, the thing that I'm most sorry about is that Gavin Van Kempen got a loss. That's tragic because he didn't do anything to deserve that loss. But, he'll have plenty of other chances going forward. And, I can't wait to see what we do this coming week.
Yep. And speaking of this coming week, which we'll talk more about towards the tail end of the show, and it is a 5-game week, very unusual for that first full week of the season, if you will, to be a 5-game week instead of just the game against Campbell and then the traveling series with the Tar Heels this week. You do start it off in familiar fashion. In game 4, we've always joked that there are certain things in life, and that's death, taxes, and game 4 of the season. And then they're at the tail end of the season, those games being against the Campbell Camels. But game 5 will be against the NIU Huskies. I had the opportunity to catch up with their coach, Ryan Copeland. They took 2 out of 3 from North Carolina A&T over the weekend, including a 6-5 win in the series finale today. And that will be dropping on Tuesday morning. So stay tuned for that conversation, as well as our 15 or 20-minute conversation with the head coach of the Campbell Camels, Chris Marks. But then this weekend, the number 10 Tar Heels await, coming to Greenville on Friday. And then, of course, the DBAP on Saturday and Boshemer Stadium in Chapel Hill on Sunday. But let's go ahead and jump into the series against the Musketeers. And before we talk specifically about Friday, let's just give kudos to this Xavier program as a whole. We knew they wouldn't be intimidated. They had played a very, very challenging schedule last year, and they are once again this year. And that started off with, of course, 3 against the Pirates. And you could tell that they not only looked the part, but they played the part. Very impressed with this roster and program that Billy O'Connor and his staff have assembled and have going.
Yeah, and they played without their top 2 hitters, so That was most impressive. And we knew one was down. We didn't expect the other player to be down. But yeah, top two hitters down, coming in, not flinching at all, looking really well, really good out the gate. So impressed by that team. I think they have a good future. Should do better than their projected fourth in the Big East. I expect them to be higher than that based on what I saw.
Yeah, it's just one weekend, but I, like you, won't surprise me at all if they're right there, challenging the Yukon Huskies and also Creighton Blue Jays for the Big East title. Like you mentioned, to do what they did and take this series without Big East Conference preseason player of the year, Connor Mish, talented first baseman, and then also Clay Burdett, who last year put up very impressive numbers. I think had somewhere between 15 and 20 doubles and had a
13
game. I
home
think,
runs.
13 home runs. And I think it was a game that Coach O'Connor mentioned that they played against Oregon State where he had an exit velo of 117, which is nuts. But
you don't see that often.
but yeah, and they very impressed. Like I said, not to dwell on it and harp on it too much, but their roster and they had some nice looking guys. 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and very. And then that one pitcher they brought in, he had to be every bit of 6'9" or something.
6'7".
Okay, 6'7".
He's listed as 6'7", but yeah, he looked taller than that. I agree.
I was joking with my dad, and this is going way back. I said, when that guy came in, I was like, holy cow. I said, this is like a left-handed Andrew Brackman from NC State.
Yeah, he looked awkward, didn't he? Like he did not look athletic going to the mound from the bullpen. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. Yeah.
But getting into Friday's game, like we mentioned, a 4-3 loss. It was a game in which the Musketeers jumped on the Pirates early. They were able to do some damage there in the first against Ethan Norby, and it was very apparent that Ethan didn't have his best stuff, and Cliff mentioned that in the post game and how he just didn't have that look in his eye and the body language that we typically see. But after Cliff challenged him, that he gave us a chance to win despite being nowhere near his best.
Yeah, you could see off the top that his stuff was not as good as it typically is. He had some trouble getting his off-speed pitches into the strike zone in the first inning, 0-2, and then a bomb. And that typically does not happen with him on an 0-2 pitch. He's usually spotting it in a lot better location. Didn't happen. So that got Xavier going right off the bat, but definitely did not have the best stuff. And he did keep us in the game long enough. And then obviously we had Jake come in the game and continue doing what he is known to do. And he had 5 Ks in his 2 2/3. But both of those guys came in and kept the team in the game, and we had shots. And we had a shot all the way down to the last out. So that's exactly what they're supposed to do. When you don't have your best stuff, you get out there and you toughen up and you try and keep your team in the game and give as many top innings as you can. And hopefully in the end it turns out. Unfortunately, in this game, it did not.
Right. I'm surprised he went at 3.2, but he struggled last year in game 1, which was also on Valentine's Day, strangely enough, against George Mason. Actually, that might have been okay. So he pitched 5.1 innings and allowed 3 earned runs and got the loss last season. And then against Ryder, he only lasted 2 innings in his freshman year. So game 1s just aren't his thing. Game 1 of the season is what I'm speaking of when I say game 1. But we all know he'll rebound and he'll be fine. I'm not worried one bit about Mr. Norby.
Another guy that we're certainly expecting big things from this year, and kind of going into the season, would he be a starter and part of the rotation, or would he be a huge piece out of the bullpen? It ended up being the latter, and that's of course Sean Jenkins. And Sean, he did give up 4 hits, but overall, very pleased with what we saw Friday out of Sean, 2 2/3, and struck out 5.
Yeah, I noticed one thing. Oh, go ahead, John. I'm just going to say one thing I noticed is last season, I think his top velocity was 94, and he hit 98. So that's a pretty sizable jump for game one on a cold February day. So I mean, I think we should, read something into that as well. What do you think about that, Will?
Yeah, well, being able, knowing that you're not going to be going 6 or 7 innings allows you to be able to amp that velocity up, and it did show. And he also showed that he does have elite stuff. And I know the coach is trying to work with him not to get too fine, et cetera, because he does have great stuff when he's on. I think his ERA probably is not representative of what he can do, but as far as that one game goes. But the 5 strikeouts and 2 2/3, that really jumps off the table. He did give up 4 hits. He stranded all of his runners on base. So basically, that shows if you have a good K rate, that sometimes if you have a higher WHIP. I think his for the game was 1.88, which is 1.88 runners per 9 innings, and that basically shows you that the 5 Ks can cancel out some of that stuff, but that's not going to happen every game. So he's going to have to get that down a little bit as far as the hits and the walk hits per inning. So once that happens, he'll become one of those elite starters that we're looking to have. But it might not be this year, but you never know.
Like we've already mentioned, the Pirates trailed 2-0 after the Mensick home run, the Oppo shot down the right field line. He had a big game, and then also Josh Stonehouse had a pair of hits, as well as Jonathan Fitz, the Musketeers catcher. But this was a game that pretty much remained 2-0, 2-1 there into the middle innings. We're able to tie it up. They had a failed pickoff by the catchers and snap throw down to third and hit the runner. And Grady Linehan was able to come in and score. And guys, I really felt as though when we seized a bit of momentum there and tied the game up, that we were going to go on to a win. But give Xavier credit, they bounced right back there in the top of the 8th and took the lead and went on to the 4-3 victory.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out 2 things real quick, Johnny. I think Linehan coming up in the 2nd inning with 1st and 2nd no outs, and he was asked to bunt, popped it up, wasn't something he's used to doing. And I know that everybody was thinking, okay, here we go, we're going to start bunting again. But that was a position where you want to get runners over to 2nd and 3rd. I think it was a little early in the game, personally, to do it. But I think later in the weekend, as Linehan showed Coach what he's capable of doing, that Coach probably would not have done that in the first game if he knew what was coming out of Linehan. Exceptional player that we have in Linehan. Now, as far as Xavier goes, they brought in Carter Muck, who did an excellent job of keeping East Carolina from scoring. So, heck of a job by the Xavier pitcher that came in relief of Peach, and that was one of the key turning points for that game was them being able to bring those 2 pitchers in and holding us down, and then scraping across 2 late in the game, and then we tried to scrape some across, and we did get one in the 9th on the home run, and that came after a swing on a 3-1 pitch. I was a little bit skeptical by Braden, but anyway, it didn't happen. We had the chance to tie the game with the bases loaded. Did not happen, but we had every opportunity to win this game. They made 3 errors, we made 2. Wasn't the best baseball defensively, but it was some great pitching in those middle innings and early for Xavier that really set the tone for them to be able to just barely hold on this game.
Yeah, a few things as far as that 9th inning. Bases loaded, 3-2 pitch, and it was a pitch that was simply too close to take in 2 strikes or in a 2-strike situation, excuse me. But then as far as the big picture throughout the game, we talked about how in games 1 and 2, the Pirates really struggled, 2 out hitting, runners in scoring position. ECU 1 for 16 with runners in scoring position in game 1. Plenty of opportunities, but to be fair and transparent, you had 15 left on by Xavier.
Yeah, but you know what? The killers were in the second inning. We had bases loaded with one out and couldn't get anybody in. And then we followed that up with a runner on third base in the sixth with one out and couldn't get him in. So, I mean, if we could have just got one of those, runners on third in, we had four chances to do it. And with one out, we
And
just couldn't do it.
also, the bottom of the eighth, Lenahan got on second with no outs and ended up not scoring. And I think one of the things we're going to see, or we saw this weekend, that the fans are going to see is how fast Lenahan has and why he's one of the top rated freshmen in the country. He is the top rated freshman in our conference, but his speed and the way he plays the game and just how easy he makes it look, he looks like he's already ready to go as a freshman. I don't see him moving off a center, and I see him batting higher in the lineup every game going forward. His speed is off the charts.
What about, you know what? Sometimes I don't like the fact that I'm watching these games from left field because I miss some stuff. But even from left field, he hit a sharp one hopper to the third base, down the third baseline, right to the third baseman, and he beat it out. And we were like, how on earth did he beat that out?
Yeah, he was running by. He ran by the bag already too. It was not a bang bang play.
No, and it was like, wow, that is nice. That is something that I'm going to enjoy watching, for the next few years for sure.
Watching him go to third, on a couple plays there, it's just great speed. You can see it. It's going to make a difference in the games. So he's a difference maker. You got to get him as many as bats as you can, and I know the coach knows this, and I'm sure that he's going to stick at the top of the lineup as long as he keeps doing what he did this weekend. But he looks like the future is very bright for that young man.
Yeah, well, and one time we had three different left fielders. We had Jeff Sabater started game one, and then Davin Whitaker started game two, and then Braden was out there in game three. But Davin, there was a ball hit to the left center, and it was just Grady made up so much ground. I thought for sure it was Davin's ball, but I mean Grady his speed he can get to any ball. Like it's like Lane Hoover. It's going to be really, really fun to watch him.
Yeah, with Grady Linehan, yeah, like you guys are saying, it's just so much fun to watch him run when he puts the ball in play or defensively, obviously. And for all of us being Braves fans, you think back when Deion Sanders was with the Braves, or Otis Nixon for that matter. But you remember, I think it was this is pre-Coors Field, and this was at Mile High Stadium. Deion had an inside the Parker, and Grady Linehan is certainly at some point during his Pirate career a candidate. If he gets the right carom and bounce off a wall that gets past an outfielder, he could have an inside the Parker pretty quick like.
Yeah, I could definitely see that in some of the other stadiums. I'm not sure it can happen in East Carolina unless it's a crazy bounce. But yeah, with his speed, he's going to put so much pressure on infielders. And then also the outfielders cannot bobble the ball, nothing like that, or he's going to take the next base. That's the kind of stuff the defenses are aware of, and they're going to be all season. The book's going to be written on him. This guy's a speed demon. You got to be ready to play when he's up to bat. And I'm sure they're going to adjust their defenses accordingly.
Yeah. That's what, for instance, back in the day, this is going down a rabbit hole here, but when ECU played Louisville at the old Fairgrounds Stadium, I attended a game there. It's a very unusual configuration, very short in right field, but very deep to left and left center. And it seems like there was perhaps in that day's doubleheader, maybe inside the Parker. But before we move on to game two of this series and that initial game of Saturday's doubleheader, I don't think we've mentioned Joe Webb. Joe Webb also threw 2 2/3 and was not sharp, but you certainly see why he's been talked about so much. He just wasn't hitting his spots consistently. And, I know, Wool, you were pointing out when he would when he would drop down, that wasn't effective on Friday.
No, he still has not got that going yet. Over the top, he definitely had was able to hit his mark. Is the point I'm trying to make. But when he went down to the side, he was struggling with that. It was going outside every time almost. He did make a couple that hit the zone, but for the majority of those sidearm pitches, they were not working. And I know that he can throw that pitch. It just was not happening that day.
Yeah, he spiked a few pitches. Do you think he was just maybe too amped up as a pitcher? I mean,
It can
did you
happen.
notice he was spiking some pitches there?
It can happen. I'm sure that if you're amped up and you're trying to yank one too hard or et cetera, you can spike them. But um, who knows? Maybe he was a little bit nervous, first game. But you never know, Johnny, on that.
Yeah,
I know the catcher is trying to figure things out. I know Walker was a little bit, off this weekend defensively, but he's trying to figure that out too, I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of new arms being caught in a game
Definitely.
against another opponent for the first time.
Good point. That's a good point that people don't realize. He has to learn these pitchers still. I know they've done a lot of work, but game time work, getting that rapport going, that's a major aspect to the game behind the plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think
so
we all have complete confidence. The next time Joe Webb goes out there, I'm pretty sure that all of us are confident that he'll perform better.
Yeah,
right.
and I was going to say one more thing about game one. I like the fact that you have an Ethan and Sean Jenkins type duo there for those first two or that first game because it kind of reminds me of having Ethan Young back there. You got a guy that can come in and dominate, get strikeouts, and if you come in a tough position like Ethan last year came in with two men on, 3 men on, and routinely would get out of those. Not routinely, but got out of them for the most part without giving up too many runs, maybe one here and there. But with that strikeout potential, that's key.
Moving on to Saturday's doubleheader, 12:30 start. You received an excellent start, like Stats already mentioned, from GVK, Gavin Van Kempen, the West Virginia transfer that unfortunately went for naught. He went 3 hitless to start things off, if not more. And unfortunately, some defensive miscues there in the 4th or 5th got him.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were worried about the walks coming in, and I think he put that to rest because he looked excellent. He probably was the top pitcher numbers-wise for the weekend. Yes, there was 2 runs, but we know what happened there. Those were unearned runs, 4 strikeouts, very clean game. He looked the part. He's going to be a very solid number 2 for sure. So I was very impressed by Gavin, GVK
Yeah.
as coach is calling him.
Yeah, you're dead on, Bubba, with what you said because I noticed that as well. He only went through the lineup one time in the first 3 innings because Colby did commit an error in the 2nd inning. They got a runner on first base, but then GVK got a double play. So he only faced 9 batters in the first 3 innings. You just can't ask for more than that.
Yep. Gavin Van Kempen's final line, 4 innings, 2 unearned runs on just 1 hit, 4 strikeouts, no walks, no hit batters, 66 pitches. You had Ethan Rose. And what did you guys think about Ethan? I think this box score is out of order here because Ethan definitely was not next in line. But since I've already mentioned the name Ethan Rose, I had told you that he reminded me of Davey Penny, longtime Pirate fans that have been around 25 or 30 years, going back to the late 90s and early 2000s, will certainly remember Davey and the key role that he played on very successful teams. And his delivery reminds me a lot of Davey.
Yeah, I was impressed by Ethan, and what a feeling for a freshman to come in the opening weekend and be able to get some time in there. And he pitched a clean inning. He did 1 inning. So the game flow was GVK, Towers, Paxton, Payne, and then Rose. And he did his 1 inning and it was clean and he got out of there. Coach was impressed with him. I thought he looked the part. He looks really good. So look to see some bright future for that young man as well.
Yep. And going to Ryan Towers, like you mentioned, he came in there in the fifth, worked a very solid inning, and then unfortunately, after the Pirates threatened in the bottom of the fifth, when he came back out in the sixth, just didn't have it and got hit around a little bit, and allowed 4 runs on 4 hits. All of those 4 runs were earned. But you saw what there in the fifth inning, what the coaches had apparently been seeing throughout the preseason and throughout all the intra squads.
Yeah, what everybody thought he would be looked that part in the first inning that he threw. Coach mentioned that he probably shouldn't have brought him back out there. They're still trying to gauge, his how many pitches, where he feels comfortable yet. So, but he definitely looked the part that everybody expected that first inning. So that's another one. He's going to have to stretch it out a little bit, and we'll see what we get out of him. But excellent pitcher. Just another depth addition to this team, which is the deepest pitching staff I've seen in a long time.
And then obviously Thomas Paxton in his first Pirate appearance had some struggles. And then Luke Payne came on. I'd been very impressed with Luke in the fall, and Luke for the most part was solid. He did give up 2 runs on 3 hits, but that came right before he was pulled from the game, and the majority of his outing was very encouraging and what I'd seen in the fall.
Yeah, that middle of the rotation, or the middle of the pitching for this game, gave up 11 of the 13 hits, and that team was just, they were on fire there after the 5th inning, and things weren't looking good. And the team they lost a little bit of their look that we had going in trying to win that second game, and then Ethan came in that last inning and got his 1 inning. But yeah, those middle innings weren't the best to look at from a pitching perspective. They had their moments, but they also gave up some hits and some runs, and they'll look to improve. There's nothing more you can say. I mean, they're there for a reason, and they'll look to improve.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Bubba, that Ethan Rose, he came in, they pulled Luke, I believe, with a runner on. And I think Ethan only threw 4 pitches to get his 3 outs.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I think he got a double play.
Yep, two ground outs.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's getting it done, man. That's getting it done. And, then, didn't use up his arm at all. So I'm looking forward to all of our pitchers as the season progresses, watching them develop.
And I mentioned in game 1 how it was a 2-2 game going into the 8th. In game 1 of the doubleheader, it was 2-1. The Pirates had gotten a run there and unfortunately didn't get the clutch hits once again in the bottom of the 5th in Saturday's first game, a game in which ECU was just 2 for 13 with runners in scoring position. So the first 2 games combined, 3 out of 29, just simply not getting the clutch hits and those 2-out RBIs that we so often see. But yeah, that game in the bottom of the 5th, the crowd really came to life, and I thought that we were going to seize the momentum, kind of like it seemed that way on Friday. And once again, unfortunately, we're unable to do so. And then to Xavier's credit, they came out in the 6th and threw up a 5 spot.
With 7 hits in that inning. Yeah. Then that kind of took the air out of the bag there. So, and it proved insurmountable, I guess, but that was just a rough inning, and we got to limit those throughout the year, try to get some stops in there, and it just didn't happen. So at that point, I think the crowd kind of went back to what it was before that, when they started getting up for the 4th, 5th inning there. But it was another game. I mean, like you said about the first game, We were in it. We could have won that game, but in the second game, we were still in this game till the fifth inning, sixth inning, and then all of a sudden they blew up, and that kind of messed up our mojo there. So had to move on, start thinking about game three at that point.
Yeah.
Yep. And in that first game of the doubleheader, that the Pirates ended up losing 9-3. It was 9-11-0 for the Musketeers, 3-9-4. Very uncharacteristic defensive performance, really in the first two games, but especially that second game of the series. 6 errors, but then the Pirates bounced back and played error-free baseball in the series finale. Before we move on to the series finale, wanted to highlight Braden Burris' 3-for-3 effort in game one on Saturday. And then you also had Grady Linehan went 2-for-4. And then Jack Herring had another multi-hit game going 2-for-5. So those three produced 7 of ECU's 9 hits.
And Burris also stole 2 bases that game.
And in that game, we also finally got a single on Friday. We had 5 hits. One left the yard, which is by Jack Herring, and then we had Jack Herring, and then I think Austin Irby, Braden Burris, and somebody else had produced 4 doubles.
Yeah, one thing we hadn't talked about is how many doubles we produced on the weekend compared to singles. It's a pace that is unsustainable, but hopefully we get over the century mark this year.
Last year,
that is,
11.
last year in 62 games we had 91 doubles. This year we already have 11.
Yeah, that's a good sign. That's what I like to see a little bit more. I said this last year. We were not hitting we did not get enough doubles. I kept saying that over and over, but this year it looks like they listened to me. So thank you, Coach, from Woolwhite.
So after dropping the first 2 games,
and Bubba, that's a joke. I know he doesn't listen to me.
Yeah. And after dropping the first 2 games of the series, you have the talented freshman getting the nod on the mound in game 3, and the Pirates looking to prevent the sweep. And Colby Weber, the 6'7" youngster out of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and he came up big.
Yeah, we were wondering what we were going to get out of a freshman, but his high school stuff was dominant. If anybody goes and looks at what he did in high school, I'm not sure you're going to see finer numbers, but he came up here, and the hardest part of this whole thing was the fact that we were 0-2 about to get sweep from Xavier, and a freshman on the mound trying to get us a win, and he went out there and produced 5 innings, 3 hits with 2 earned runs and 6 Ks, and he looked like he could have kept going. In my opinion, he just looked like he was under control. There was one head snap of a moment when he gave up that tremendous bomb to right field, but that kind of stuff happens, and he just hung a raking ball, and the guy did not miss it. That was about 100% pure barrel on a ball as you're going to see. So anyway, that's a learning experience for him to understand that, as good as his stuff is, that every once in a while he's going to run up against somebody that can come in and do something like that. I'm sure he hasn't seen that in his high school days.
Yeah, I believe that was left-handed hitting Tommy Townsend, and like you said, he definitely got all of that one.
Yeah. He had 4 strikeouts in the first 2 innings, only allowed the 1 hit. I think he only allowed 1 hit in the first 2 innings and struck out 4 guys. So definitely no nerves involved there. He went right after him from the start.
Yeah, very impressive outing, first of his Pirate career. And Colby Weber, 5 innings, 2 runs on 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, didn't hit any batters, 70 pitches. So pretty dang efficient there. Less than 15 pitches an inning. I guess that comes out to be exactly 14 pitches per inning. So fairly economical for his first ever start against a quality opponent. And because of that, and not only did he deliver such a fine outing, but he did so with a potential series sweep on the line. And as a result, is our PGXGloves.com pitcher of the week. So congratulations to Colby Weber.
Well deserved in a tough spot. There's no doubt for a freshman, especially, right?
I
Yeah.
agree. Hey, I just to put it in perspective a little bit. Before, obviously when the American coaches voted on their, all conference team, all rookie team, the rookie pitcher of the year preseason was Ethan Rogers from Wichita State. And, Ethan they were playing Northern Colorado, who's just, they're not a good team. I think Wichita won all 4 of the games against them. But in any event, Ethan Rogers only saw 2/3 of an inning. He struck out 1, didn't give up any hits. So he looked really good. But I mean, they're putting him in against Northern Colorado for to get a couple of outs. And our freshmen, we're putting him in a high leverage situation starting game 3 of a must-win, game. So what he did, I just think that makes it look even more, puts it into perspective, the challenge that was met by him, compared to what other freshmen are doing.
Yeah, I've not seen that gentleman pitch yet, but I would be hard pressed to find a freshman that went out and did what Colby did in this first game under the intense circumstances he was under. We did not want to go lose a sweep in the first weekend or get swept in the first weekend of the season. So he was there was a lot on his shoulders, and he carried the load and he delivered, and he had looked very casual doing it. I don't know how to explain it, but to me, he looked like he could have went out for another inning or 2. But I know the coach wanted to get him out there, get him out of there while things were going good, and fortunately for him, there was nothing more that happened other than just going out there and dominating and showing what he can do. So good stuff for Colby, and I hope that just he builds his confidence more and more because he's a top of the line starter. I mean, he's a Friday guy. We can see it. So awesome stuff out of a freshman.
Yeah, no doubt. And then as far as the bullpen's concerned in game 3, Gavin Marley, the Lenore-Ryan transfer, 2 shutout innings, allowed just 1 hit, 3 strikeouts, and a walk. Very solid first Pirate performance for Gavin.
Yeah, Gavin was very impressive to me as a former pitcher based on what I was seeing. And I was getting to see the pitchers from center field. A lot of movement. I know catcher was having a hard time with a couple of those pitches, but a lot of movement. He kept the ball in play, got the 3 Ks, no walks. I don't think he had a walk, 1 hit, and not a lot of traffic on the base pass. That's what you want out of your middle relief. Last year, we struggled in middle relief with base on balls. We know that. And hopefully with this year's pitching staff, we'll see that be lessened to the point where we start winning a lot more middle of the week games, midweek games. And most importantly is you don't use a ton of pitchers on the weekend. So you got a fresher a staff throughout the week. It's a little bit more fluid. You got guys that are staying in routine and not a lot of worn out arms going on. But what I saw from Gavin is very impressive. Hopefully he can keep that up because he's going to be in high pressure situations sooner than later if he keeps that up.
Pirates used 2 other arms in addition to Weber and Marley. Jackson DiLorenzo, D'Lo faced 1 batter, and then Frank Saccone came in and worked a couple innings, facing 9 batters through 27 pitches, 2 runs, both earned on 3 hits. Gave up a home run and maybe a double. Not Frank's best, but
he was in a tough spot there, right? We have a huge lead. He's got to throw strikes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You don't want to walk anybody. You want to make sure you throw strikes, and a couple home runs later. I think you got 2 home runs against him, Johnny, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm double checking that, but yeah, that's
like you mentioned, Pirates with about an 8-run lead or something when he came in the game.
Yeah.
And
He knows
Yeah,
what his job is to do there.
exactly.
It's to throw strikes. That's all he got to do. So
Exactly.
he'll be in other positions where he can actually pitch better and not have to throw semi-batting practice of sorts.
Yeah. Not have to be too cute with that large
Yeah,
lead, like you're saying.
offensive players know what coming at that point. They know he's going to fill the zone up, and that just helps them tee off a little bit more. So you're going to see a home run like that or two. So it just happens. But with a big lead like that, you had a little room to deal with. You just didn't want someone coming in there walking somebody right away, and you saw what happened there. And I know they might have been injured or whatever, but that's not going to last very long. And like last year, we saw a lot of pitchers come in and base on balls was a killer, and that's one thing we don't need to do, especially with a big lead like that.
Offensively for the Pirates in Game 3, ECU pounded out 13 hits, and we're 7 for 17 with runners in scoring position after going just 3 for 29 in the first 2 games of the series. The Pirates did go 0 for 7 with 2 outs, so obviously not what they would have liked there, but yeah, much better, and the extra base hits continued to come. You had 4 doubles. Grady Linehan, Austin Irby, even though one of those really wasn't a double, but we'll take it, right? And then Walker Barron had a double. So you had Barron with 3 hits, Irby with 3 hits, and also 3 runs batted in. Grady Linehan 2 for 4 with 3 runs batted in to lead the way with 4 multi-hit Pirates in the game.
Yeah, and real quick before we forget about it, we did have a shuffle of the defense on the third game, moving players back to positions they felt more comfortable with Seawall going back to third, and then Braden went up to the outfield, and just a little bit more comfort level. We saw zero, no issues with the defensive effort in that game. And then we also saw a new DH, Braden
Yeah.
Bachman came in, and he hit the ball hard. He hit it on the button, but he just had nothing to show for it. But as far as the doubles, they continue to pile up in that game. And we also another game by Grady Linehan driving in 3 runs, 2 for 4 with a double and a sacrifice fly. Just doing it all. He's just a player that can do it all. It's hard to describe how easily he makes it look too, as well. Just like the freshman Colby on the mound. So just awesome to see that stuff happening and coming together.
Yeah,
Yeah, Nick.
I'll be honest with you, Will. I was surprised to see Bachman as the DH, but I was also unaware of the injuries that we had. But
Yeah,
man, the first fly out to left field, he smoked it. And then he walked on 4 pitches and scored a run. And then the third time, it was to the wall, left field again. He smoked it again. It went all the way to the wall. So love what I see from him so far. Good eye at the plate, lots of exit velocity, and I'm I didn't even know that he was going to be one of our weapons, but I'm
yeah,
happy
and
to
then
have him.
Walker at the bottom of the lineup producing. That was one thing we missed in the first 2 games. We just had no production out of the. Not only did we not have any production out of the bottom lineup, we had no one getting on base from the bottom of the lineup. So all those doubles at the top of the lineup don't do a whole lot if you don't have people on base in front of you. So yeah, in the third game they had Burris leading off, Herring at second hole, Linehan was third, Irby 4. Wallace 5, Hakame was 6, Bachman DH 7, Parham, who was a shortstop in the third game, replacing Seawall, did a good job at short, and then Walker in the ninth hole catching. So that was the lineup, batting lineup going into the third game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess it was about the 6th or 7th inning, something like that, of the first game of the doubleheader that you had Nick Parham come in at short, and over those last 10 innings or so of the game or of the day, Nick definitely looked and played the part there at short. Made a nice play, ranging to his left up the middle. Made a play deep in the 6th hole, and great to see. And I didn't realize until today that Nick Parham had an arm injury.
Yeah.
And that made more sense as far as why they had questions whether he was up to the task and why they went with Colby as opposed to Nick to begin with.
Yeah, the arm issue, and Coach mentioned it today in one of his talks, that the arm was still not 100%, so they were a little bit concerned about that. But he looked like he can make the plays, and defensively looks very sound. So when that arm starts getting up to speed, it's going to be a great infield. I feel that way. Plus, we have Lashley coming back. I guess I don't know. Does anybody know any more than I do on that? I hear talk that he's
Yeah,
injured, or kind of one of those soft tissue injuries that lags and lags and lags.
I think they're just being extra careful because to rush them back and then lose them for an extended period of time is something they're trying to avoid. I think so. I think they're
Seems
just
like they
being overly cautious because it's early in the season. Let them heal properly. And hey, but for
yeah.
Nick, I do want to say one thing about Nick Parham. I spent the summer of 24 following him and Colby and the Charlottesville Tom Sox around the Shenandoah Valley, and I saw a dozen of their games, and Nick played every position out there other than catcher and pitcher, and I never saw him commit an error. I saw him make some spectacular plays. His bat, he had a home run last year, but I mean, he's not going to have a 300 average probably, but he's going to give you everything he has with his glove, and that's what we need right now.
So in that second game, Bubba, he came in as a pinch runner, and then just stayed in the game.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I missed how he got in the game. I didn't know if he was pinch hitting or pinch running. Yeah.
I think that's right. I may be mixing it up. I think
Well, he
maybe
played in all three games. I know
yeah,
that.
he came in as a pinch runner on Friday, so I may be
Yeah.
mixing those two up. But I just remember there, like I said, about the 6th or 7th inning after we had some of those defensive miscues, that saw Colby bump over to third and number 4 come out to play short.
Yeah, because he came in as a pinch runner in game 1, and I was surprised that we didn't see Chance Hall, because I thought he was like our pinch runner, first guy out of the off the bench. But Nick got in there, and then he had an at bat in game 2, and then he started game 3. So, and he's going to start. I'm sure he'll start the Campbell game as well.
Yep, and I mentioned the guys that had multi-hit games in game 3. A guy that did not have a multi-hit game in the series finale, but did have 2 multi-hit games in the series with Jack Herring. And Jack Herring, because of his excellent first weekend of the season, is our PGXGloves.com player of the week. 5 out of 13, a home run, 2 doubles, 3 runs batted in, scored 4 runs. He didn't strike out a single time. He also drew a walk and was hit by a pitch, so reached base in 7 out of his 15 plate appearances.
Yeah. Hey, can I expand on Jack for very quickly?
Please.
I hopefully this is not intended to be a jinx, but he has a 10-game hitting streak going back to last year, and in his last 8 games, his batting average is .417. So, I mean, he's been getting it done at a high level. I think he's in the groove, whatever you want to call it. It's carrying over from last season, and I hope it continues because we need it. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's quickly becoming the most dangerous bat in his lineup, without question. And it's going to be fun to watch what he can do. And I wonder if he's going to stay in that 2-hole, or if Linehan will go to the 2-hole. But what he's doing from that spot right now is tremendous. And we have a great table setter at the top with Braden, who's already hitting .462 on the year. But Jack's slugging for the weekend was .770. So he had an 1167 OPS this weekend. So, yeah, good stuff out of Jack this weekend. Hopefully, well-deserved for Player of the Week.
Yep, and kind of now as we're transitioning into a look at the American Conference on opening weekend, wanted to get to some comments very quickly from Justin Butts. Appreciate Justin chiming in via Facebook. He said, "What's up, Bubba and JR?" And then, come on, JB, why are you leaving wool out?
I know.
But nah. And JB went on to say, going to see that pitching depth early with a 2-game midweek, of course, against Campbell and NIU. No doubt about that. And then also, he said he hated to see Alex Boucher get that sprained ankle, was pretty severely sprained ankle, unfortunately, over a chest bump pregame.
Sounds like a high ankle sprain to me, and that takes a good while to get over. Anybody who's ever had one knows that's a good 4 to 6 week type thing. But I don't know exactly what it is. But if it's that severe, it's usually a high ankle sprain. I'm not sure. I guess he landed on Colby after a
Yeah.
hot chest bump or something.
How about no more chest bumps? Because this just happens too often, not just with East Carolina, but with athletes in general. I mean, you hear about it all the time, chest bumps, and then somebody gets injured. So maybe they should tone it down a little bit, because I was looking forward to see what Alex was going to, contribute from the plate. Now we're going to have to wait a while.
Yep. So kind of transitioning from the Pirates, and we'll circle back to ECU to wrap up the show as we take a look at what lies ahead with that 5-game week that Justin just referenced. If you're tuned in, definitely chime in and let us hear from you over the next 10 minutes or so before we wrap up tonight's show. But before we move on to that next topic, I wanted to show our appreciation to Mark Minikazi and PGXGloves.com. Appreciate them being our title sponsor this year. And go to pgxgloves.com, use the promo code Jungle Tales, no spaces, in all caps. Again, Jungle Tales in all caps and no spaces, to get 25% off your order at checkout. And there you see some of COD's excellent selection on the screen. Again, appreciate the loyal support of former ECU third baseman Mark Minikazi, now the manager of the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars. But so yeah, guys, taking a look at what happened around the American. Let's start off with our in-state opponent, and that is Charlotte 49ers. The 49ers played what's always a very solid San Diego Torero program, and they dropped 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I was wondering what Charlotte was doing with their pitching staff, because they weren't throwing guys a lot of innings. So I don't know if they were trying to piecemeal every game or somebody had a bad game. I didn't really look that deep. But none of their pitchers really pitched more than 2 in a third inning, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, they finished. I mean, right now, I mean, they have a team ERA of 7.2. And another disturbing thing is they've had 8 bases stolen against them in 9 attempts. I don't know if that's pitcher or catcher or just a lot of speed, on the other side, but that's a high number. And the thing is, Ethan Norby, yeah, he got the loss. I mean, he didn't get the loss, but he didn't do as well as we thought he was going to do. But there's a lot of Friday night starters in our conference that just didn't have good games. And Andrew Cribbs is definitely Charlotte's Friday night guy. And I mean, he only went 2/3 of an inning, gave up 3 runs, 2 earned. And, as we all know, Robert Orlowski of UTSA is probably done for the season, unfortunately. He went, 2/3 of an inning, gave up an earned run, but I think he's got a season-ending arm injury. So, it wasn't just Ethan that had a tough opening night for a Friday night starter.
Yeah, of note for the 49ers in that season opening 7-4 loss to the San Diego Toreros, and this series was played in Charlotte at Hayes Stadium. But their very talented reliever, Joseph Taylor, went 3 1/3, 1 run on 5 hits, struck out 8, and walked just 1, throwing 69 pitches across those 3 1/3. So And then
Yeah,
Jaden Winter, Jaden
Yeah.
threw two-thirds of an inning, 26 pitches.
yeah, he didn't. Was it 2/3 of an inning? Gave up 2 earned runs. But
Yeah.
real quick, going back to the catching situation that Johnny was talking about. Now, Cale Strickland is their catcher, and he's not in there for his batting skills. He's in there for his defensive skills. But he actually hit the ball very well this weekend, and then played poor defense with all that going on with steel wise. So that was an interesting thing. And then Cody Gunnarsson, who's their stud first baseman, had a heck of a weekend. So offensively, they look like they're going to be good. But yeah, the pitching staff, I'm not sure what was going on there. Drew Munn did pitch 4 innings. He didn't give up any runs. So we'll see what happens there. It looks like a lot of stuff happened at the bottom of their bullpen. So be
Yeah.
interesting to see, because I feel like they had a second place type team behind East Carolina.
Yeah, and
Yeah. So
I forgot to mention, Bub. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Tulane's Friday night guy, Trey Sahajic, he went 3.1, gave up 3 earned runs, walked 5. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who rebounds this week.
yeah. So after losing 7-4 in the series opener, as expected, with the rain hitting North Carolina on Sunday, you had a doubleheader in Charlotte, as you did in Greenville. They beat the Toreros 13-0 in Game 1 before losing 14-4 and dropping the series with that loss in the finale. You had UTSA, the Roadrunners, that they were playing South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, and they swept that series, scoring 43 runs in the process, winning 17-4, 13-5, and 13-1. Unfortunately, despite outscoring the Jackrabbits 43-10 on the weekend, it wasn't all smiles for the Roadrunners. And Wool, I know you know a lot more about this than do I. So if you would elaborate a little on the Roadrunners ace.
Yeah, Mr. Orlowski, he had a rough outing. He went 2/3 of an inning, and towards the end of that inning, trying to get out of it, he threw a pitch. First of all, his velocity was down. Second, he threw a pitch that was not even close to the zone, went down, held his, was holding his arm, and you knew that he was basically, he knew what had happened. So this is something that looks significant. Hopefully, it's not for the young man, because he really is the heart of that pitching staff, and they really were struggling for weekend studs anyway. So they're going to have to, the number 2 guy. I think he's an Australian guy. I can't think of his name right now. It's going to have to become the Friday guy. But yeah, his injury looked like it's going to be a season-ending type injury. I think Coach even mentioned that today.
Yeah.
So unfortunate for that team. They're going to have to find a way to get around it. But like JR said, how many innings did he pitch last year? Yeah,
92.
and that's 92 innings from an elite pitcher. So you're going to have to replace 92 elite innings pitched. That's going to be tough.
Yeah. One thing the Roadrunners have going for them, though, is they had 71 total bases in addition to the 43 runs. That's a little crazy.
Caden Miller almost broke 2,000 on base plus slugging this weekend.
Yeah, their first baseman.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just a
That's
sophomore too. He's only a sophomore. He'll be getting better. That's scary. I was going to say one more thing about UTSA.
Real quick, while you're thinking about that, their third baseman, who's also a sophomore, Josh Arquette, had a 2.129 on base plus slugging. His slugging was 1430 by itself. But both of them, one of them hit 778, Caden Miller, and the other hit 714. I mean, they just put on a display this weekend. Incredible.
Wow, they sure did. They did. Okay, we can move on, because what I was going to say about UTSA is not applicable, because this was last year's stats I was looking at. So
Gotcha. Well, moving on, the Rice Owls under David Pierce, his first full season at the helm. They took 2 out of 3 from Northwestern. That was, of course, in Houston at Reckling Park. winning 7-6 and 3-2 before getting blown out 17-6 in the series finale. And this week, you have the Rice Owls taking on Louisiana and Purdue at Reckland Park. So a couple of pretty quality opponents there. And then this weekend, they're traveling out to L.A. to the Doe Field to take on the Trojans. And so that very challenging 5-game week for David Pierce and company.
Yeah, here's a funny thing. They were 2-1, but their team ERA was 9.00. That's crazy. Well, in part because the game they lost, they got lit up pretty good. But from a fielding standpoint, they're first right now in the American. They committed 1 error and 101 fielding opportunities. So their 990 fielding percentage is leading the conference at this point.
Yeah, with Coach Pierce, I see them getting better and better, little by little. He's had to rebuild that team really, based on what was going on down there. So it's a big change for him to get down there and have to turn things around. So hopefully he can do it, get back to what Rice baseball used to be, what we all know it used to be. So.
Yep, and like we mentioned on our preview, they definitely lost some quality arms from last year. Despite the record, being poor, they did have some pretty impressive arms at the front end of the rotation. But then, so moving on to the Wichita State Shockers, the Shockers swept Northern Colorado, winning 11-4, 14-1, 11-0, and 7-3. And that was, of course, at X Stadium. And this week, they're playing 5 games against the Rainbows out in Honolulu. So pretty interesting that you're going to be 9 games deep into the season against just 2 opponents.
Yep. Yeah, and they got a couple more 4-game series after that.
Yeah, they have. They come back home. Excuse me. They come back home to play Omaha 4 games, then West Georgia 4 games, then the 1 game against Kansas State away, and then 4 games at home against Butler. Yeah. So all those games.
What in the world?
Well, if you listened to the Wichita State preview that I gave, you would have known that, Bubba.
Yeah,
that was one thing I didn't really notice, JR. You should have pointed that out more because
I did, but nobody was listening.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That might have been the one where I had to step away for a minute.
It was indeed. You're correct about that, John. It was indeed. And then I went ahead. Yeah, you're right. You were away on business momentarily when I gave that one.
That's quite shocking to see a schedule like that. But I know why they would go to Hawaii and play 5 games. Hawaii needs to get as many games as they can in, and for travel purposes. But all those 4 home game series, that's weird to me.
But if you look in their past, that's like something they did back in the glory days.
Yes, back when they were playing 75 games.
Right, Bubba. Against some questionable opponents too, I might add.
Yeah, the 5 games against Hawaii is no surprise. It's just those having 4-game series. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Well, we used to do it all the time. What year was that? 21 or 22? We played.
After the COVID
because of COVID.
Yeah.
So Jason Jones, their senior third baseman, hit 467 for the week. He had, 4 home runs, so he's at the top of the country in home runs at this point. 12 RBI, so he had a good week. But yeah, as far as their team goes, I'm interested to see what happens when they start playing these next group of teams coming up. So 4-0 to start the season. I know they're feeling good. They scored a lot of runs. They scored 25, 36. They scored 43 too. So a big weekend for them.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good because I was going to transition into another team.
Okay, yeah, I'm always a step behind, though. I was going to say something about because I previewed Rice as well.
Go ahead.
The Pirates are number 2 in the conference in strikeouts. We've only struck out 16 times, but Rice has only struck out 8 times. So I think that's remarkable. I don't know who their hitting coach is. I did do the preview, but I don't know that I even looked up who their hitting coach is. But it's week one. They had a Northwestern, I think, was their opponent, right? Yeah,
Yes.
Northwestern. So it's not like a Northern Colorado or something. So I'm just interested to see what Rice does this coming week. See if they can continue that. All right,
Memphis.
go ahead.
No, you're good. The Memphis Tigers. And we talked about how Matt Reiser and that program really improved their non-conference schedule, and with the likes of Jacksonville State for 3, at Missouri State for 3, etc. And on opening weekend, they took on the Toledo Rockets and dropped the opener 8-6, but bounced back with a pair of close wins, 5-4 and 6-4. So Memphis is 2-1, and this week they'll take on Little Rock, Ohio State, Louisiana Tech, Ohio State, and then they'll actually play at Little Rock the following week. So this week they have 4 games against 3 different opponents in a tournament there at FedEx Park in Memphis.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see. The review you gave on them was very in depth. I'm just curious to see how they're going to pan out this year. But a good start to their season. A couple close games against Toledo for some wins and a close game and a loss. So this weekend will show a little bit more, I think. So we'll see what happens with that team.
Yeah.
Moving on to
Early trends for Memphis, Bubba. Early trends for Memphis: 10 for 10 in stolen bases. That's pretty strong. I don't care who you're playing, and their fielding percentage. They're the only team that has a worse fielding percentage than we do. Now we know we're going to get ours up, so that's not an issue. But yeah, they're dead last in fielding, but they're 10 for 10 in stolen bases.
Good stuff. Moving on to the South Florida Bulls. Year 2 of Mitch Hanna's. Last year they took a series from a Big Ten opponent. I believe it was the Iowa Hawkeyes. So for a second straight season, they did the same. This time it was the Illinois Fighting Illini that dropped 2 out of 3 down in Tampa. The Bulls won 9-4. The Illini bounced back with a 4-2 win in the second game, but then USF won a shootout 11-10 in the series finale. So solid start of the season for Mitch Hanna in year 2 there at USF.
Yeah, and they got a big start out of a freshman named Michael Sine. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 0 runs, 3 hits, and had 6 Ks. So that may be something surprising for them. I don't know. I did the review for South Florida, I think, didn't I? I can't remember now. But anyway, out of a freshman, that's a good start for them as well.
I did.
No,
you
yeah,
did?
that was Bubba.
Yeah, so that's a good sign there. They had their big hitter was shortstop Jevin Relaford. He had a good week. He had 2 triples, and they had 3 triples total for the weekend. So,
yeah, that's very interesting because I remember us highlighting him and how they had brought in a guy that had an awful lot of success at a lower level, and now for him to come in and do that on opening weekend against a Big Ten opponent.
yeah,
that Illinois has been pretty good in recent years, so that's a good sign for USF.
yeah, and they're going to be at the top of the conference in the end as well. There's another team to look for. Obviously, they had to replace a lot, but it looks like they're doing a good job. So we'll see.
Sticking down in Florida, you had FAU taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish there at FAU Baseball Stadium in beautiful Boca, and they were able to win the series opener and season opener 7-1, but then from there were dominated, only scoring 2 runs in the next 2 games and falling 14-1 and 7-1. What can you tell us about this one?
Go ahead, JR. I'm sorry.
About Florida Atlantic and Notre Dame?
Yeah, for that series.
Yeah. The only thing I can add at all, and this is not even relevant really, is that Florida Atlantic attempted 4 stolen bases. They got thrown out twice, but the rest of the league is 42 for 42 in stolen bases. Now that's a very weak attempt at commenting on that game. I don't know, Bubba, because I was I don't really know. I haven't looked into that one.
They opened with a win against Notre Dame, and then they dropped the last two. But as
Okay.
far as the insight on that, they opened up 7-1 win in Boca. Then they got pounded 21 runs to 2 runs in the last two games, 14-1 and then 7-1. So they weren't really competitive games the last two.
Also down in Florida, you had UAB, the Blazers visiting the Gators, and they won a thriller 9-7 in 10 innings. I think it was on Friday night, and I watched the last inning of that one. And then, unfortunately, the Gators were able to bounce back and take the series with 11-0 and 6-1 wins on Saturday. Well, yeah, just a doubleheader on Saturday.
Yeah, it was a big opening win going up against the Gators and coming home with a victory. But just shows you our conference can play with anybody at any given time. And a Friday start, like I've always said, you never know, you're going to get some good stuff out of a pitcher. So looks like they got some pretty good starts. We'll see how they end up doing. They did have some struggles there late in some of the games, and some of the guys got blown up. But it did look like they came out and did very well the first game. And always beating the Gators is a good thing, I know, for a lot of those players.
Yeah, Mason Steele was their Friday night starter. He went 5 full innings, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. So hey, it's the Gators, and those are good numbers. So now Sully's back. That's the thing. He was he missed that series because of the incident in Conway. So now he's back.
Yep.
What incident in Conway?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Sully.
Yeah.
But the interview, or not interview, but press conference that I saw where he was addressing it, he hardly addressed it. It was kind of like Mark McGuire. He wasn't there to talk about the past. But
that's weak.
But the final team that we have not talked about thus far, and that's the Tulane Green Wave. The Green Wave went out to Loyola Marymount, and they took 2 out of 3 from Ryan Towers' old ball club, and winning 12-3 over the Lions in the season opener. Then fell 6-4 in game 2 before responding with a 6-2 victory in the series finale to win that one out in, like I said, Los Angeles. And now they're staying out there, and tomorrow they're going to take on the UCLA Bruins. Bruins took 2 out of 3 on opening weekend, and I'm not sure where they're ranked in this week's polls. Last week they were either first or second, depending on which poll you checked. And then they're back to New Orleans to take on the Harvard Crimson this weekend.
Yeah, nice trip out to LA, and then they get to finish it off playing who many people think may be the best team in the country. We'll see how that pans out, but out in Jackie Robinson Stadium, so we'll see what happens there. But that's a good start to the season, 2-1. We'll see how that works against a top-notch UCLA team. It is a midweek start. We'll see how the depth pans out. That's the most important aspect. A lot of these teams like UCLA have a lot of depth, and we'll see what Tulane can bring to the table from their pitchers in the midweek start. So that'll be telling.
Yeah, I agree, Will, because like I said, their Friday night guys struggled, Trey Sahajic, but overall, their team ERA is only 2.77, which is that's pretty good. But their strikeout total is really, really low. So they've only had 27 strikeouts in 3 full games, and they're hitting the ball well. They're batting 275 as a team. So, yeah, we'll see what they can. That's going to be a good barometer as UCLA.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Hate to pull against B-Dub, Bryant Ward in East Carolina, great, and the Bruins, but have to pull for our conference rival there because that would obviously bode very well,
Yes.
for the RPI moving forward for the Green Wave to knock off the Bruins there in Westwood. But moving on to this week's
real quick, Bubba.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw in a UTSA Nugget. Their team batting average right now is 421.
Yeah, it sure
Nice.
is.
Yeah, I knew you mentioned that earlier because you were saying with the Orlovsky injury, if that's as serious as it appears it might be, that
Outslugging teams.
that potent offense is going to have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, Johnny mentioned that about that potent offense, and I was thinking about if they're pitching, so we might have some slugfest going on, depending on they may have someone that steps up. You never know. You may have a
Yeah.
freshman come out of the woodworks here.
I'll tell you this. I'm not a Roadrunner fan by any means. Actually, they're probably at this point, our biggest rival in baseball for this season, anyhow. Listen to Pat Hallmark. Listen to his press conference. I liked what I heard from him. Very confident guy, and I think their team is going to step up and fill in the void that's left by that Orlovsky injury, and they're still going to be a team that's going to be hard to dethrone as the regular season champion.
Yep. And so now we'll move on to the first 5-game week, and that is Campbell, NIU, and then the traveling series with the North Carolina Tar Heels. So Campbell, they dropped 2 out of 3 in Bowie's Creek to Cal Poly, winning the series opener 5-2, but then falling 16-5 and 4-3. Wool, what were some of your takeaways from this?
Well, this is another Friday night starter guy that did well. Leighton Grubbich went in there and pitched 5 2/3. He had 4 Ks, only gave up 1 earned run, 5 hits. Rest of the week was not very good. They just didn't have any hitting. Other than Jonah Oster, the DH, senior DH they have, who had a very good week, they really didn't get much output from the offense at all. Very, very weak offense. So we'll see how that pans out. But as far as the pitching goes, it was all a Friday deal, and then the rest of the weekend was not pretty for them.
Yeah, I was looking at the box score from the 16-5 loss, and like you mentioned, Jonah Oster 2 for 3. You also had first baseman Joey Morton go 3 for 4. But a familiar name, a name that killed the Pirates last year, from what I recall, and that is Jet Music.
Jet Music.
You can't forget a name like Jet Music.
It's a pitcher, but I guess he's playing right field too, right?
He is. He does both, right?
Yeah.
He did. He actually picked.
I believe he came in throwing gas last year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm mistaken on the gas part, but
he got the save in the first game, pitching 1 inning, 1 K. Yeah.
But it seems like he was running it up there in the mid to upper 90s. But I may be thinking about somebody else.
I don't think so, Bubba.
Okay.
He was pretty impressive. He didn't play the outfield, though, I don't believe, last year. Not against us, anyhow.
So they basically piled up 21 hits and 92 at-bats, and they had 29 strikeouts. They did have 6 doubles and 1 triple, but they scored 13 runs in 3 games, 2 stolen bases. Just not an offensive output they wanted, other than the 2, the Jonah Oster and, as Bubba mentioned, Joey Morton. They really didn't have much going on.
As far as the NIU Huskies, we won't dive too deeply at all into them, just because I caught up with their head coach, Ryan Copeland, and then also Chris Marks. So you'll hear both of those conversations on Tuesday morning to preview tomorrow's game as well as Wednesday's game. And the Huskies were in town being Greensboro, in state, I should say, and taking on the North Carolina A&T Aggies, winning 10-2, losing 10-3, and then after being postponed from Sunday to Monday, took care of business today against A&T 6-5 to win that series. And that's a program, as you'll hear Coach Copeland say, has really, really struggled. He's in his 3rd year now. Prior to his arrival, they had won something like 10 or 11 games in that previous season. The last 2 years, they've won 21 and are clearly making strides, even though they have a ways to go. But it's certainly a
Yeah,
game. It's certainly a game that the Pirates, if we come out and handle our business, should obviously win at Clark LeClaire Stadium. But
yeah,
and,
yeah. They
and then after playing ECU, they'll travel to the upstate of South Carolina, where they'll take on 3 different opponents this weekend: USC Upstate, Presbyterian, and Wofford.
Yeah, what I was going to tell you is winning their first game of the season was the first time that has happened in 10 years. So it's been 10 years since they won on opening day. One thing that they do is last year they had a pretty legitimate power team, so they may have a little bit of that. We didn't see it this weekend, but we'll see how it pans out this year for them. But I'll be interested to see your interview with him in the morning.
And then also aiming to get Scott Forbes, the longtime North Carolina staffer, as an assistant to Mike Fox, and now several seasons as the head coach. The Tar Heels swept the Indiana Hoosiers, winning 9-4, 12-2, and 4-3. And wow, that 4-3 victory! Hey, you can give them credit. They they loaded the bases and were able to capitalize on when. And I understand that we're in the NIL era, and some folks are like, "Why would you feel bad for somebody?" I mean, I couldn't help but feel bad for that IU second baseman throwing it straight into the ground.
Yeah, we had a Steve Sachs moment there going on, and I hope he can rebound from that because that wasn't good. They had a win, 15, 20 feet away, and it didn't happen for it. And then Carolina came back and in extra innings and took the series sweep. So, but I'll tell you this: we're going to face three of the best starting pitching staff. Excuse me. Let me rephrase this. We're going to face the toughest pitching staff we're probably going to see all year in these 3 guys. They have 3 Friday starters: Jason DeCaro, Folger Boaz, Ryan Lynch. Ryan Lynch is a future first round pick. So this is going to be as tough as it gets. Plus, they have a bullpen that's as deep as it gets. And Walker McDuffie, last year was one of their top dogs. He didn't even have a good weekend, but the other guys came through and held on. They have so much pitching. So this is going to be a tough series. I'm hoping we can sneak one in there. I'm trying to figure out if we can get 2 out of 3, but it's going to be one of our toughest 3-game series of the season.
Yep, the Tar Heels are ranked 10th. You have the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers ranked 6th this week. So
That might be the second toughest.
Yeah, very challenging next few weeks for the Pirates. But
And going back to what Johnny said, yeah, their opening day starter did not have a good Friday
For
at
who?
Coastal. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about Jason DeCaro because he
No,
did.
Jason
Yeah.
did. Jason
He
did
had,
all
a,
right.
he, had a, ni- he had a nice opening. Yeah.
Yeah, but the stud out down in Coastal, he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't have a great game.
He did
These,
not.
these early games with pitchers, you never know if they can get loose. They can spin the ball. We saw with Ethan, his ball was not spinning like usual. So that's the number one key is being able to get that grip and that feel in this type of weather.
Yeah, and to elaborate on JR's point that Jason DeCaro had an excellent start, went 5 innings. He did throw 90 pitches across 5 innings, but 5 shutout innings, just 2 hits, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks. He did not hit a batter. And then, so you think about it on Friday night, which is officially a sellout as announced on Monday by ECU. You're going to have Jason DeCaro and Ethan Norby.
Yeah, what a Friday night matchup, and we expected that to happen. And hopefully, Ethan can get his stuff up to speed so we can match head to head with Jason. I think that when Ethan is on, he's just as good, if not better, than DeCaro. I know DeCaro slipped a little bit last year, but the year before that, he showed that he had top level stuff. And this first game was awesome for him. But we're getting ready to see 2 of the best pitchers in the country go at it head to head. What can you ask for?
On Saturday, it appears as though you would have at the DBAP Folger Boaz. You mentioned Boaz and the quality arm that he is. He threw 85 pitches across 5 innings, 1 run on 2 hits, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 hit batter. So you would have Boaz squaring off against Gavin Van Kempen, it would appear. And go ahead.
Boaz was a previous #1 Friday starter. Had to go on, underwent surgery. So now we get to see him against a game, Gavin Van Kempen, who GVK showed that he's ready and up for the task to pitch. So hopefully he can spin another game like he did and get some better defensive support behind him.
And then on Sunday, it looks as though it would be Ryan Lynch, who went 5 innings, throwing 92 pitches. So there you see all 3 of the Tar Heel starters. They all went exactly 5 innings, threw anywhere from 85 to just over 90 pitches. And Ryan Lynch, 1 run on 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 2 hit batters. And he'd likely be squaring off against freshman Colby Weber. So there you have an initial look at this weekend series. We'll take a deep dive, hopefully with Scott Forbes. May also get Dave Nathan, the play-by-play voice in North Carolina baseball, on the show to preview that one.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, averaging 18 pitches an inning for the 3 for the 3 weekend starters. I guess that might be key. Get them to go deep in the count, because that's not really that efficient. What do you? I mean, what would you say about that? I mean,
the Friday start, DeCaro's he was not as efficient as you would want a pitcher to be in 5 innings. What did he throw? 90 pitches.
Yeah, 18 pitches an inning.
Yeah, all 3 of those guys threw 85 to 92 pitches in 5 innings. So
they're and you got to think of Ryan was mostly a reliever last year. They did stretch him out towards the end, and he was arguably their best pitcher at the end of the year last year. And he's their Sunday starter, so that's going to be fun to watch him. A sophomore, I guess he's a draft eligible sophomore. I learned that today, and going to go up against one of the better freshmen in our conference and in the country. So that's going to be a great Sunday matchup as well.
Yeah, well, they do have 19 strikeouts in 15 innings, among the 3 of them. And when you get a lot of strikeouts, the pitch count obviously goes up. So that might have something to do with it. I don't know.
And final thing here, we talked about the Campbell game, but we failed to mention getting the start for the Pirates in a more of an opener role. It's already been stated by Cliff Godwin today in his interview with Stephen Igo on Hoist the Colors Radio on 94.3 The Game that Brett Antolik, that Brett will throw the first inning, and then we'll also definitely see lefty Nick Moran after not having seen him over the weekend.
Yeah, that's a good 1-2 for the middle of the week. That's what most excites me about this year's middle of the week games, midweek games, is we have pitchers that have been proven in the past, and hopefully we can get a lot more consistency. We do not need to waste a lot of arms during the middle of the week. We need to be prepared for the weekends. That's the most exciting part about having this deep pitching staff that they have. And then, especially this week, because they're going to have to play another game on Wednesday and then have to prepare for the Tar Heels. So we don't want to use a whole bunch of arms this Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah,
I agree. So essentially, Moran is, even though he's not the starter, he's the guy that's going to be we're going to be counting on the most. Because what do you think we see the most out of Antolik? Is there any way he goes past 1 inning?
Not according to what Cliff said. We shall see.
Okay. There you go.
I guess you can never say never. If he comes out and something crazy like a
Ethan Rose inning,
four pitch inning or something. But
well, hey, let's do. I think I mentioned earlier, we need to give our starting pitchers some help in the first inning. We haven't scored any runs. We've only got 1 hit and 10 at bats. So hopefully that trend will not continue, and we'll start to see some hitting at the top of the order early in the game.
And going back to what Bubba said, when was our first lead of the series, Bubba?
inning 20.
Was it inning 20?
Yeah, the second
Wow.
inning of game 3.
So that was our first lead of the
Yeah,
weekend series.
yeah. Even
Yeah.
when we got swept, in opening weekends by Ole Miss or Virginia or Bryant, we had a lead at one point in all those series. But this time that wasn't the case. So, but when we got started, we racked up 12 runs in 8 innings. So maybe the fuse has been lit.
Yeah, let's hope so. That we found something, with that lineup. I'm intrigued to see what the lineup will be tomorrow. My guess is that it will be very similar, if not the same as Game 3 of the Xavier series. But and then it'll be interesting to see who starts on Wednesday. Outside of seeing Antolik for the first time, anything specifically you guys are looking forward to as far as tomorrow and Wednesday?
Well, it'd be good to see Tolik back on the mound in a competitive game, see what he's got. And when I say competitive game, I know he's done inter squads and stuff like that, but getting out there in a real time against Campbell, a team that we've lost 5 in a row to, that we need to get back on the winning side of that thing. And just seeing him go out there and pitch a nice clean inning and look good and get some confidence built up. And I know it's been a long time since he's thrown, so just look forward to seeing him throw. And then also Nick Moran, seeing him, I want to see him improve as well. He's had some great moments. He pitched a lot, and hopefully he can continue to give us that midweek stability.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Nick Parham finally getting his shot. Nobody had him as a starter, this early in the season, and even though he's not 100% healthy, that won't affect his glove at all, and it might minimally affect his bat. But I'm just looking for him to get a few hits this weekend and continue to play great defense. And that'll just make everybody feel a lot better with Colby back at third, Nick with a solid shortstop, maybe a couple key hits here and there. And I just feel like it'll be a morale booster for the whole team.
Yep. And on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap up this first edition of This Week in Pirate Baseball, a late night edition, as we talked the series against Xavier and then looked forward to the Pirates 5-game week. Be sure to follow us on social media at Jungle Tales Pod, as you see there on the screen for our viewers. Be sure to like, follow, comment, and subscribe. And at Jungle Tales Pod is how we can be found on all social media. And there you see the jungle loves Johnny Stats.
Love it when I see that.
But guys, any parting thoughts?
I have none. Just hope for a great week this week. It's going to be a tough
Yeah.
weekend, but yeah, a couple wins early in the midweek and we move on.
Okay, I don't even want to bring this up, but has anybody checked the weather? I have not, so I don't even know. I mean, is there any chance that any of these games are going to be affected by the weather?
I'll just quote Coach Godwin. I'm not here to talk about the. I'm not here to talk about the weather.
Yeah, I haven't bothered to check that. So hopefully that won't be an issue, and hopefully we'll take these 2 games and go. We'll be ready for Carolina.
Yep, should be a lot of fun this weekend, I'm sure. As always, this 3-game traveling series, it'll be 6,000 plus. I would imagine something like that on Friday at Clark LeClaire. Hopefully, something similar at the DBAP, or more like 7, 8, 9,000, and then something around 5,000 at Boshemer Stadium. I think is that capacity, somewhere in that neighborhood. Because a couple years ago, it was right around 20,000, the cumulative attendance for this series. Tremendous atmosphere in all 3 games. But that will do it for this lengthy edition of the show. But be sure to check out our previews with Chris Marks of Campbell, also Ryan Copeland of NIU, as we preview the next 2 days. And then we'll also have one headed your way with either North Carolina head coach Scott Forbes and or play-by-play voice, Dave Nathan. But for former East Carolina pitcher John Wool White, and then also Johnny Stats, I'm Bub Rosenbaum. You've been listening to Jungle Tales and This Week in Pirate Baseball. We'll talk to you soon, and as always, go Pirates.